We had a tremendous show planned for you. Well-designed, articulate, a tremendous deconstruction of the most interesting issues of the day. We prepared a whole piece on the new Trump tariffs, breaking down the different rates and their secondary impacts. A truly illuminating dive into the overlooked role of the commodities markets in trade deficit accounting. It was going to be so funny. But sadly, at the last minute, we had to scrap all that because Elmo lost his f***ing mind.
Elmo is back to his usual family-friendly content after a hacker posted racist and anti-Semitic remarks to the Sesame Street character's X account.
This is what happens when you go too long without tickling Elmo. I'm sure it wasn't terrible. It was Elmo. How bad could it be?
The since deleted posts called for death to the Jewish community and criticism of President Trump. The hacker also demanded the release of the Epstein files and used inappropriate language to respond to other users.
All caps, Elmo? By the way, to the news people, is that the only B-roll of Elmo you have to play for the death to Jews story? Look at Elmo in the B-roll. He's dancing. Hey, everybody, Trump's a child f***er. Woo! Havana Gila, Havana Gila. For God's sakes. You don't have any footage you could use of Elmo being appropriately sad or circumspect when talking about those posts? It's Elmo. Every week he's in a spiritual crisis. Here he is. Look, we found this. This is him finding out that leaves fall off of trees. Oh, Elmo just found out about life's impermanence. Couldn't you have used that for his death to Jews stuff? Instead, he's out there, death to Jews, death to Jews. Anyway, these tweets were especially shocking to me as someone who has worked with Elmo. I've worked with Elmo, as everybody definitely remembers. Yeah. I hosted Elmo Palooza in, I'm gonna say 1831. This picture makes me sad for a number of reasons. It does remind me, though, of a certain point in one's career where you haven't really established yourself yet, and so they really don't give a shit if your wardrobe fits. You're just kind of a guy that's there with a suit that's there, and if it fits, great. And if it needs to also fit Big Bird for the next sketch, take it off, Stu. Snuffleupagus is up next. I mean, Jesus. Did I take a dump in my pants? Look at that. You know when the camera people are laughing at that. That's not fair. Richie, that's not fair. The truth is, I'm being honest, Elmo at the time was great to work with. He was. Was there a ton of coke on set? Of course. But hateful racist Elmo is not the Elmo that I remember. I know what's in Elmo's heart. And so I thought it would be appropriate to have my old friend back so that we could talk through this very difficult time. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my old friend, Elmo. Elmo. Elmo, you know what we're here to talk about. The Jews. That's right. We're talking about the Jews, Elmo. I think you had something that you wanted to say.
Yes. Elmo was hacked. They hacked Elmo. They guessed Elmo's password was Elmo. Elmo 123. Elmo knows passwords should have more numbers, but Elmo only knows 3 numbers.
Elmo, what did we talk about taking responsibility?
It's true. Elmo wasn't hacked. It was Elmo. But Elmo was radicalized by the manosphere. Elmo is part of the male loneliness epidemic. You see, what happened was Elmo was doing his own research on flu shots. 6 hours later, because of the algorithm, Elmo was moderating the QAnon Discord chat and building homemade bombs.
Elmo, you need to take responsibility. Don't blame the algorithm. A lot of kids count on you for life lessons. And Elmo, accountability is a big part of that.
Are you canceling Elmo? Once again, the so-called tolerant left policing speech that's inconvenient to their woke dogma. Who's the real puppet now, John? Who's the real puppet? Who's the real puppet now? You're the real puppet.
What? Elmo, that just sounds like alt-right talking point word salad.
Yeah. You said it, not Elmo. Elmo's alt-right. No reason to cancel Elmo's funding then.
Oh my God, is that what this is about? Elmo, you're pandering to the right so you can keep your government funding for public broadcasting?
Elmo can't go back on the streets, John. You have no idea what it's like. Elmo's too pretty to live under a bridge, John. It's a life brought to you by the letter sucking. Elmo won't. Elmo won't go back. Elmo can't go back. No!
Well, I guess I'm glad you don't, actually believe all that stuff you said about Jews.
Of course not, John. Elmo doesn't believe almost any of it. Although, I mean, it is kind of weird they all stayed home on 9/11.
Elmo, they didn't stay home! That is a myth, Elmo!
Okay. Elmo, sorry. Please don't let them cut Elmo's funding. You'll talk to them, won't you, Leibowitz?
All right. Okay. Elmo, everybody. Elmo. Let's see. That was enlightening. I didn't expect any of that. Elmo shoots from the hip. You can't control him. I'll admit, the sucking thing threw me off, too. I thought that was weird. Now, the impetus for Elmo's rant seems to be the Department of Justice memo that has just been released that said the Epstein sex trafficking case was officially closed and that no new information would be forthcoming. And while Elmo is demanding that the files be released, Donald Trump's response is brought to you by the letters FU.
You still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. Are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Unbelievable? You guys ran on it. Remember this?
We need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
This Epstein sex ring operation, I'm not letting it go ever. Ever.
Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are.
Why would you have to change your pants to let us know who the pedophiles are? And why wouldn't you be wearing pants while you're researching this? And that was before the Trump administration took power. And by the way, they were still hyping the Epstein files after they took power.
We have flight logs, we have information, names that will come out.
President Trump has given a very strong directive, and that's going to be followed.
So people can expect actual movement on this. It's not just empty promises.
Oh, Donald Trump doesn't make empty promises.
Yeah, right.
Two of his wives and 10,000 unpaid contractors disagree. But these are all people who work for Trump that set the expectation. And I think because of that, surprisingly, MAGA world, for the first time in memory, isn't just slavishly acquiescing to Trump's reality distortion field.
Where did that whole case go? Where did all the files go? They just went nowhere? No one even believes that.
This stinks. This just reeks.
Something is horribly wrong here.
Pam Bondi needs to be fired.
Yes, Pam Bondi, the ringleader. She makes the decisions. The backlash wouldn't die. So Trump had to go back out and kill the backlash. Perhaps even making it look like a suicide. So this weekend...
You heard him, John! That's outrageous!
So this weekend, Trump tried to reason with his base using their shared love language, long, rambling Truth Social posts.
In a social media post, the president asked his followers, "What's going on with my boys?" and in some cases, gals.
Let me stop you right there. Not to be all woke, but I believe they prefer the terms bros and hoes. But sorry, go on. You were explaining why it was time to move on from the Epstein case.
Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell, and more?
So, just to understand this, in a few months' time, we went from the Epstein files will expose the Democrats to the Epstein files were written by the Democrats and therefore can't be trusted, so let's move on. And then Trump brings up Hunter Biden's laptop as a reminder for all of us not to dwell on old conspiracy theories. What? So, problem solved? Right, MAGA world? Well, let's test it scientifically.
How many of you are satisfied You can clap. Satisfied with the results of the Epstein investigation? Clap. How many of you are not satisfied with the results of the investigation?
Let me hear everyone who thinks sex trafficking should still be prosecuted say, hell yeah! Hell yeah! Who wants to know more about a cabal of elite sex criminals? Just the ladies! So MAGA world is now in open revolt. You want to know how bad it's getting out there? They're literally burning their MAGA army uniforms. Yeah. And you know there's just another guy standing next to him going, you know you got to flip them. That's your problem there. You got to flip them. Yeah. But clearly telling your base to just forget about Epstein isn't working. But if you know Trump, he can always just pivot to the classic Trump distraction. Throw something outlandish out there and watch the dogs chase the squirrel. I'm going to invade Greenland. I'm going to bomb Iran. He's going to try something big.
President Trump is reigniting his decades-long feud with comedian Rosie O'Donnell.
I think we're going to need a bigger boat. That's not going to be enough.
The president taking to his social media platform to write in part, quote, I'm giving serious consideration to taking away her citizenship. She's a threat to humanity and should remain in the wonderful country of Ireland if they want her.
Don't look at our inaction at prosecuting a sex trafficking ring to the rich and powerful. We must focus on the real issue. The denaturalization of the co-star of Riding the Bus with My Sister. Yeah. MAGA is losing their shit right now. They cannot believe what they're seeing. Trump is lying? Dismissing reasonable concerns as bad faith whining? Attacking anyone who disagrees? Well, as a resident of Blue America, can I just say right now to my red colleagues that my pronouns are, how does, and my ass taste? You like it? The Trump that you're just experiencing now, to your deep disappointment and dismay, is the dude we've been dealing with the whole f***ing time. You just didn't realize it because he's been nice to you. Like when you've had a terrible tragedy.
My administration is doing everything in its power to help Texas. We gave them all the money, all the help that they can possibly use. We've given them max. We've maxed out, and we'll continue to max out.
Whatever you need, Daddy's here. Because you're the child he wanted. But we're Eric. And this is truly just a weird, cheap shot. This is how we get treated.
I don't think we should give California anything.
I mean, if I give California money, then every state that didn't vote for me will think I'm their president too. That's not a precedent I want to set.
We are on week 2 of the MAGA civil war over the Epstein files. And the Trump administration can't get its stories straight. There was a client list, then there was no client list. They were going to release all the files, and then they decided not to release any files. So let's see what today's excuse is.
I would say that, these files were made up by Comey. They were made up by Obama. They were made up by the Biden,
Okay, cool. Cool as a cucumber. This guy's not worried about a thing. So let me get this straight. According to Trump, all the top Democrats got together and said, let's create some fake files that destroy Trump's political career. They don't ever use them. They let Trump get elected. Don't use them. Let Trump get elected again. Still don't use them. And then once he's the president, hope he releases the files without ever looking at them. Frankly, that plan sounds so inconceivably bad, I do believe the Democrats might have come up with it. But Trump clearly wants everyone to move on. And after initially pushing back, some of them are getting the message.
I think the DOJ should immediately move to unseal all the Epstein documents in the Southern District of New York.
Yeah.
I think every file should be released to the public the same way as the JFK files.
Honestly, I'm done talking about Epstein for the time being. I'm going to trust my friends in the administration. I'm going to trust my friends in the government to do what needs to be done, solve it, balls in their hands.
Wait a minute. The balls in their hands, he says? Probably not the phrase I would use when talking about the Epstein files. The ball's in their hands. The shaft is in the courts. The taint is in the bread basket. What the are we doing here? A phrase you don't hear conspiracy theorists, free thinkers utter a whole lot is, I'm going to trust my friends in the government on this one. Clearly, this issue has MAGA on its heels, which means now is the time for Democrats to strike. Democrats, show us what you got.
Congressman Hank Johnson coming to give you some more ear candy or perhaps an earache.
Epstein died by suicide. That you must be blind. You've been telling us you released the bomb, but where are they?
You know, maybe I was too harsh on the J6 choir. You know, I just feel for his poor aides who probably spent all week having to help him with this. Like, Rebecca, quick, give me a list of all the words that rhyme with suicide, please. Yeah, but it's a fluid situation right now, and MAGA is trying to wrap their heads around it because they have a lot of unanswered questions.
There are a lot of unanswered questions, but the biggest question is just what on earth is going on?
I don't know what's happening.
It doesn't make sense.
I can't reconcile this Donald Trump with the Trump that we're seeing right now, the Trump that is gaslighting the public right now.
Yeah, okay, you know, yeah, this is a tough one. Why is Donald Trump refusing to release the Epstein files and telling everyone to shut up and move on? Well, okay. Let me offer one possible theory. Perhaps you've heard of Occam's razor. It's the idea that the most simple explanation is probably the correct one. In the case of Trump and the Epstein files, let's call our theory Occam's giant machete. By now, you've probably heard that Donald Trump, Jeffrey Epstein, and Epstein's partner, Ghislaine Maxwell, used to be friends. But it's worth understanding how close this friendship was.
Trump says he's known Epstein since the late 80s, and pictures from the 90s show the president with Maxwell, who became Epstein's girlfriend.
They were neighbors in Palm Beach. At one point, Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago.
It's party time at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago, and among the guests, Jeffrey Epstein.
Come on in.
Trump and Epstein can be seen ogling the cheerleaders. Trump points one of them out and says she's hot. Then he says something in Epstein's ear that has the financier doubled up in laughter.
Now. Okay, now. Hey. What did Trump say? It's impossible to know. And Donald Trump and Epstein didn't just party together, they were neighbors. Epstein said he was Trump's closest friend for 10 years. In fact, Epstein's infamous Little Black Book included 14 different numbers for Trump and his representatives. I mean, he had 14 separate ways to contact Donald Trump. I mean, when I drop my kid off at camp, I give 2 emergency contact numbers. And one of them is fake because I don't need the hassle, all right? And these guys didn't just party together. Epstein was a part of some major milestones in Trump's life.
Jeffrey Epstein introduced Melania to Donald Trump.
Trump was a frequent passenger on Epstein's plane, known as the Lolita Express. And Epstein told author Michael Wolff the first time he slept with Melania was on my plane.
And that is how I met your mother, Baron. Any questions? I'll tell you, next time you're on a flight with a crying baby, just think about how much worse it could be. All right, So right now, you might be thinking, fine, they were friends. They hung out. That doesn't mean Trump knew about what Epstein was doing. And you know what? Maybe not. But he clearly had some idea.
In a 2002 interview with New York Magazine, Trump showered praise on Epstein, calling him a, quote, terrific guy, and saying, it is even said he likes beautiful women as much as I do, and many of them are on the younger side.
Do you know how creepy with women you have to be for Donald Trump to pick up on it? I mean, that's a real your drunk friend taking the car keys from you moment. And you could still say, so what? They were close friends. They were Mile High Club pals. That still doesn't mean that Trump is in the files. And maybe. But after Jeffrey Epstein died in prison, the only person left who knew all his secrets was Ghislaine Maxwell. And when she got charged with sex trafficking, Trump's response was surprisingly sympathetic.
I haven't really been following it too much. I just wish her well, frankly. I've met her numerous times over the years, especially since I lived in Palm Beach, and I guess they lived in Palm Beach. But I wish her well, whatever it is.
You wish her well? Is that the right response? I think there's a reason they don't have that section in the Hallmark store. It's not there. It's not. Let's be clear. Law and Order SVU doesn't start like, in the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous, and we wish the perpetrators well. Dun dun. Okay, you know what? You want to take another shot at it? Maybe even more flailing and desperate?
Yeah, I wish you well. I'd wish you well. I'd wish a lot of people well. And I do wish you well. I'm not looking for anything bad for her. I'm not looking bad for anybody.
What are you talking about? You wish bad things on everybody. Suddenly you're wishing Ghislaine well? You were harder on Kristen Stewart for cheating on Robert Pattinson. Okay. All right. So, to sum up, to all the MAGA people who are so confused about why Trump doesn't want to release any of these files, maybe the answer has something to do with Occam's giant f***ing machete. Let's kick things off with America's big, beautiful boss, Donald Trump. He was at a conference in Pennsylvania yesterday to discuss AI, his go-to technology for giving Jessica Rabbit 3 giant boobs. And if you're curious what the commander-in-chief's thoughts were about the technology that will change our future, too bad. He decided to weave.
When I first heard about AI, it's not my thing. Although my uncle was at MIT, one of the great professors, 51 years, whatever. He was the longest-serving professor in the history of MIT, 3 degrees in nuclear, chemical, and math. That's a smart man.
Let's pause right there. I hate to be nitpicky, but I'm a stickler for facts. Yes, Trump's uncle was a famous MIT professor, but he wasn't the longest-serving professor in MIT history, and he didn't have a degree in nuclear or chemical or math. Again, sorry to nitpick. You were saying about your genius uncle.
Kaczynski was one of his students. Do you know who Kaczynski was? There's very little difference between a madman and a genius.
Wow! We went from 0 to Unabomber like that. Okay, I don't want to be that guy, but it's unlikely that the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski was a student of Trump's uncle at MIT, because Kaczynski never went to MIT. Now, maybe Trump just misspoke, made a slip. I mean, who among us hasn't accidentally told people that our uncle taught the Unabomber? I once told people my Nana gave piano lessons to John Wayne Gacy. Not sure why, I don't know, it just came out. I was probably nervous. But the problem with this little fib is that it was the cornerstone of an entire fantasy conversation Trump had with his uncle.
What kind of a student was he, Uncle John, Dr. John Trump? He said, what kind of a student? And then he said, seriously good. He said he'd go around correcting everybody, but it didn't work out too well for him. Didn't work out too well.
Wow. An amazing story that, once again, absolutely never happened. Because nobody knew who Kaczynski was until 1996, and Trump's uncle died in 1985. What I'm saying is, isn't it great that we finally have a president whose brain works perfectly? But it's not surprising that Trump would want to escape into a fantastical world of Unabomber fan fiction right now. Because back in the real world, he's still got all his supporters breathing down his neck to release the Epstein files. And no matter what Trump does, he just can't get them to shut up about it.
I know you've urged people to move on, but I'm curious, why do you think your supporters in particular have been so interested in the Epstein story?
I don't understand
about how it's been handled.
I don't understand it. Why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life.
Not the guy you call to give a eulogy. Also, you don't have to like Epstein, but he clearly was a big factor in terms of life. He's America's most famous sex criminal, which is quite a competitive category. This really highlights Trump's dilemma. He's desperate to tamp down the drama, but his entire career has only taught him to heighten the drama. I mean, you can't spend your whole life as the messy bitch from a reality show and then suddenly say, can we have some decorum here, please? Because this does not sound like Donald Trump.
But I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring.
It's boring! Oh, yeah, what's interesting about a global pedophile sex ring that involves the richest people in the world that I might be covering up in my own involvement in? Snooze alert! Anyway, who wants to hear about my copper tariffs? That's juicy. So, MAGA diehards, you've heard your dear leader. Epstein's just a boring dead guy who no one cares about. I'm sure you'll join him in saying it's time to move on. Nothing more to see here.
We should put everything out there and let the people decide it.
And I think that the American people need to see what's in there. And that's not hard to understand.
I do think there needs to be more transparency.
You don't believe what the Justice Department is saying?
I don't know. No, I don't. I don't trust them.
Oh, man, that guy is flat out broken. I don't trust nothing no more. I'm gonna go just fill my pocket with rocks and walk into the sea. Tell Manu Raju I love him. I mean, things are so bad, even Lauren Boebert is demanding answers. Although being Lauren Boebert, she has a particular way of putting it.
Of course we want answers. No one is satisfied with what has been received or lack thereof. No one is satisfied with the rollout of this.
Yes, Mr. President. If Lauren Boebert was in charge, you better believe she would leave people satisfied. She would not be jerking everyone around and then leaving them frustrated like you. No, sir, with her, there would be a complete finish. This is a shocking turn of events for Donald Trump. His own sycophants are breaking ranks with him, and even worse, they are demanding accountability.
I think moving forward, we need a special counsel. That has got to happen. I want answers, and maybe that takes that special counsel to do so. Maybe Matt Gaetz can lead the special counsel.
You want Matt Gaetz to investigate underage sex trafficking? Because it makes sense in a sort of game-recognized game way. I can see Matt Gaetz pulling up to R. Kelly's house saying, I'm putting together a team. Also, legally, I have to introduce myself. And this special counsel thing might have been the last straw, because by this morning, Trump had absolutely lost it on his supporters.
He posted this morning. He said, my past supporters have bought into this, quote, bullshit, hook, line, and sinker. Don't even think about talking of our incredible and unprecedented success because I don't want their support anymore.
God damn, he went full whole messy bitch. If you can't handle me at my sex crimes cover-up, you don't deserve me at my alligator concentration camps, you sluts. Okay, all right, so Trump is in a brutal spot right now, but like any good reality show producer knows, always leave room for reconciliation. And Trump might have done that today.
Mr. President, will you ask Attorney General Pam Bondi to release more documents to finally put this controversy to bed?
Whatever's credible, she can release it. If a document is credible, if a document's there that is credible, she can release it.
You hear that? Those documents are coming, or Donald Trump's uncle wasn't Ted Kaczynski's favorite teacher. We all know President Trump has spent the last 2 weeks in a wrestling match with the ghost of Jeffrey Epstein. But he's been fighting the last 6 months with a much more alive person, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. And boy, does Trump hate the guy.
Jerome Powell has done a terrible job, and frankly, I don't think he could do a worse job. We have a stupid person, frankly, at the Fed. He's an average mentally person. I'd say low in terms of what he does, low IQ for what he does, okay? But this, numbskull, he's a numbskull. I think he's a total stiff. You talk to the guy, it's like talking to nothings. It's like talking to a chair. No personality.
Yeah, whatever happened to all of our exciting, dynamic Federal Reserve chairs? Who doesn't remember Fed Chairman Dirks McGinty, huh? Did he crash the economy? Yes. But that guy was radical. Now, you may be wondering what Jerome Powell ever did to make Trump so angry. I mean, the way Trump talks about him, you'd think they caught him at a Coldplay concert with Trump's wife. But at its heart, this is a beef about economics. Trump wants to lower interest rates to help juice the economy, but Jerome Powell is in charge of setting those interest rates, and he refuses to lower them because he's worried that will increase inflation. And nothing makes Trump angrier than someone doing their job well.
He should have cut interest rates a long time ago. Europe has cut them 10 times in the short period of time, and we cut them none. The only time he cut them was just before the election to try and help Kamala or Biden, whoever the hell it was, because nobody really knew. How did that work out? You'll tell me. It didn't work out too well, did it?
By the way, if you're wondering what this guy has to do with any of this, I'll tell you, nothing. That's the Crown Prince of Bahrain. He flew across the planet to talk about peace in the Middle East, and now he just has to sit there while Trump works himself up over some personal shit. It's like when you were at your friend's house for dinner and get dragged into their parents' fight. Oh, you know what? Let's ask Timmy. Timmy, is 4 beers a normal amount to drink at breakfast? Tell Mr. Patterson. Tell Mr. Patterson. But yeah, sorry, Your Highness. It doesn't matter what you were here for. Just buckle up and enjoy the ride.
He's a terrible Fed chair. I was surprised he was appointed. I was surprised, frankly, that Biden put him in.
Yeah, why did Joe Biden put Jerome Powell in? Let's go back to when Joe Biden appointed Jerome Powell and see what Joe Biden said about him.
It is my pleasure and my honor to announce my nomination of Jerome Powell to be the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. He's strong, he's committed, he's smart.
Damn. Man, Joe Biden looked fat as shit. Hey, I get it. I'm also trying desperately to forget everything that happened during Trump's first term. So, now, you might be wondering, if Trump hates this guy so much, why doesn't he just fire him? Well, he's been threatening to pretty much nonstop ever since he won the election. But you tell me if Powell seems fazed by it.
Some of the president-elect's advisors have suggested that you should resign. If he asked you to leave, would you go?
No.
Can you follow up on, do you think that legally you're not required to leave?
No.
Okay. You don't want to spin it? Do a little grandstanding, The camera's on. Give it a little razzle-dazzle, Big J. Come on. But no, Jerome Powell truly does not give a about Trump's threats.
To follow up on Victoria's question, do you believe that the president has the power to fire or demote you?
Not permitted under the law.
Not what?
Not permitted under the law.
Wow. He went on to add, try me, bitch. Although, just one more quick follow-up, Chairman Powell. Do you think I can pull off jean shorts?
Not permitted under the law.
Harsh but fair. But Powell is right. The president can't actually fire him. The position of Fed chairman was designed to be independent from the president, to ensure that his decisions will be made free of political pressure. But Trump thinks he found a loophole.
Yesterday, the president suggested a caveat that he could remove Chairman Powell if there is cause. He has accused Powell of fraud related to the Fed's multi-year $2 billion renovation project.
He's spending $2.5 billion to I guess it's a renovation. I don't know. The one thing I didn't see him as a guy that needed a palace to live in. And now on top of it, he's building a close to $3 billion little nest egg for himself. He's doing a little renovation for $2.5 billion of the Fed.
Yes, I've been here this entire time. By the way, it's crazy to hear Trump complain about the Federal Reserve Palace while he's sitting in his gold-bedazzled office. Man, that Jerome Powell sure is extravagant. Don't you agree? Gold-plated eagle holding up a marble end table. But on the other hand, Trump's smear campaign is having an effect. Some of these charges of extravagant spending got to the point where Powell had to deny them under oath.
The media reports that you accurately quoted, they're misleading and inaccurate in many, many respects. There's no new marble. There are no special elevators. There are no new water features. There's no beehives.
What? No beehives? Not even one? Well, now I'm worried Jerome Powell isn't spending enough on the renovations. How can I trust a Fed chairman who isn't licking honey off his fist like Winnie the Pooh? It seems like they're now trying to make the renovation sound as shitty as possible. No water feature, no special elevators, and worst of all, they're dismantling the skate park for Dirks McGinty. Oh.